It's football season, boys. Welcome to episode 21 of the Wild Blueberries Roundtable. We've got a full table today, 4 people, 4 AFC divisions. Let's start it off with, Renz, because she's got the AFC South. Before we move on, let's just talk about Andrew Luck a little bit. Ren, do you want to just start it off and talk about Andrew Luck?
Okay, I'll just start with the Colts at that rate then.
Yeah, just start with the Colts then, and then we'll talk about Luck.
Okay. Let's just start with the Colts. I have them last in the division because of said retirement. And my record for them is your choice of either 6-10 or 7-9. Now,
the division at 7-9.
So you're predicting a competitive division in the AFC South.
Yes, I'm expecting it to be hysterically cutthroat somehow because of all the teams somehow falling in our face or being good.
They're all going to be aggressively mediocre.
Yeah, because holy shit, all these teams have an elite side and a bad side.
For the Colts, the elite side is?
For me, I would still call it offense because as much as you're gonna miss Luck a lot, and I'll just go into that now, I don't blame him for retiring. Yes, I understand it's 2 weeks before, but I don't blame him to put mental health over a game.
Whoever doubt that Andrew Luck is a dumbass, stupid for retiring, fuck you.
Now, here's the thing. He doesn't need that money because he has $97 million. Well, technically 96 because he gave Verizon $1 million to let his flip phone still be usable, but still. That is not a joke. Andrew Luck still uses a flip phone to this day.
I love that story.
Yep. I don't blame him. Like, he just got married. He's getting a kid in January. Why not quit when you have that money and the fact that you're looking at those injuries? Like, that injury list is long, like broken cartilage, a lacerated kidney, like a torn labrum, and like that calf ankle issue that led to this, which I was looking at it, that could have led to an Achilles tear if he was playing with it, like injured, like a KD Durant style, which wouldn't be good.
Honestly, the blame lies all on the Indianapolis Colts management. They neglected an offensive line for so many years that now their franchise quarterback at 29 years old said, you know what? Kind of tired of this. And I don't blame him. The dude's brilliant. He's gonna be successful in whatever he decides to do next. But
it's not Chris Ballard's fault.
Let's not forget that Andrew Luck has an engineering degree from Stanford.
He does.
And he went to Stanford.
He stayed in school before he was drafted to make sure he had a degree. So he had some sort of backup plan after football.
And 2 people you could blame, Jim Irsay and Ryan Grigson.
Yep.
Like, the only time they had a good O-line, and it was technically the best O-line, was last year. And that was like 4 years too late.
And he had a comeback player of the year season.
Yeah.
And he's also like one of the nicest players to ever play in the NFL.
He's probably the nicest quarterback to play in the NFL.
The Indianapolis fans that booed Andrew Luck off the field just did not deserve him or any nice things.
I think they did. I think if any of us were in that situation, we probably would have booed it hearing that news.
We would have.
It's 2 weeks before the season, and you're in the heat of the moment. That's going to be your reaction.
I can tell you right now.
This guy sucks for doing that.
I can tell you right now that if Tom Brady retired next week, I still wouldn't boo him off the field.
Same.
That's just straight fact.
I still wouldn't.
Well, I think Tom Brady and Andrew Luck are two different levels of quarterback.
Yeah. And
Tom Brady has 6 rings. If he retired, he's the best that's ever played the game. Andrew Luck doesn't have a Super Bowl ring.
But besides that point, it's still just like Andrew Luck gave his heart and soul to that organization.
Yeah,
he's the only reason why the Colts are relevant.
Exactly, he poured everything he had into being the quarterback on a mediocre team. Honestly, they were expecting greatness out of him in the post-Peyton Manning era, and he gave them everything he possibly could have. And the fact that they still boot him off the field is just despicable. Indianapolis just doesn't deserve nice things.
You also have
anything he deserved. Ursay, the Colts management before.
It was literally just Gregson.
It was bad, and they didn't get any help.
It didn't. It also gives you this if he had help, think about it. He single-handedly carried his team to the AFC Championship. What do you think he'd do when he had help?
They might have won a Super Bowl.
Yeah. And that's really it. So now time to go here. Now, even with that, Jacoby Brissett, he has a damning task right here. Here, filling for him of all things. So, just before I get to that, some notable additions that Indianapolis had was they added Spencer Ware, Devin Funchess, Rocky Sin, and Paris Campbell, the last two being in a draft. And really, their only subtraction, it's really just Andrew Luck. People also they lost was Dontrell Inman and Son Mitchell, who really weren't notable. But to get back on the point, Jacoby Brissett, you, my friend, have a damning job to do. And at the very least, he got some weapons.
He's got an offensive line and he's got weapons.
Yeah, you got T.Y. Hilton and Eric Ebron and Paris Campbell as receivers. They're good. And you got Marlon Mack as a running back.
Yeah.
Now Naheem Hines out of the backfield as a receiver as well.
Yeah, they have weapons now. He's not... I don't think that they're going to be hysterically bad, but they're not going to be good.
All right.
Now, defensively, they improved on it. It could be one of the better defenses. They added guys like Rocky Sen and Justin Houston, and you still got guys like Malik Hooker, Darius Leonard, and Pierre Desir to help the defense. One of my problems with this is that there's really not much depth after those guys.
Friend,
when you guys... What?
No depth at all on that team.
Yeah. Now, I would have said this was written before the Harrison trade when he was essentially their backup cornerback, and now, he's gone. And if you saw that AFC divisional game last year, you could see how much that team missed Malik Hooker because their secondary got burnt badly by the Chiefs during that game.
Hey, but guess what? Now they have Malik Hooker, just nothing else.
Well, Rocky Sin could probably help with that. But that's it. Their only problem really is the secondary in that defense and in the landscape of things. And the X Factor, it's Brissett. Who else would it be at this rate? I would have, if Luck didn't retire, it would be that secondary because they need to stop giving up the long pass after time. But Jacoby Brissett, he's going to be either the reason why you go 5-11 or you go 8-8. That's really it.
We're 11-5. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next team, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Okay, the Jaguars. Let me find them here. I have them going 8-8.
Former Super Bowl champion and Super Bowl MVP Nick Foles.
Yep. That is true. I still have them going 8-8. You got Nick Foles, Josh Allen, Jawan Taylor, and John DeFilippo as their new coordinator. I really don't know what to think about that as their additions. And subtractions, Blake Bortles, if you want to call it that, Austin Seferian Jenkins, and Malik Jackson. Now,
Jackson is the tough one for them, but they could get over it.
No, they'll get over it. They'll be fine. Now, I could say this. They have an elite defense. Their offense, well, meh. I mean, with the addition of Nick Foles, they have a starting quarterback now. And with
a lot of
money, though. Yeah. And possibly a bounce back from Leonard Fournette could really help this team to at least get to mediocrity. Other than that, they don't really have the tight ends or the wide receivers. You have guys like D.D. Westbrook. I think he's your number one receiver now at this rate.
He is the one receiver.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about D.D. Westbrook, though. I just want to interject this. He's got all the speed in the world, And with a competent QB now in Nick Foles, that might translate to something good.
Yeah, that's
Westbrook
what I'm thinking.
He's a decent receiver, and now that he's got somebody that can actually put the ball in his hands, that might be something to look for. Now, obviously, that's not saying the Jaguars are going to be phenomenal this year at all. It really depends on Leonard Fournette and the offense. So defense really isn't a worry.
And getting to the defense, that defense is probably one of the best defenses on paper, if not the best. You got guys like Ngagwe, Calais Campbell, Josh Allen, Jalen Ramsey, Taven Bryan, Miles Jack, AJ Boyd. You get the point.
Boys, can we say one thing?
What?
The train has backed in. We have returned to Saxonville, Florida, so we'll see what happens.
Also, the AFC South should be pissed at the Giants for picking Jones because Josh Allen landed right to them at 7.
And Josh Allen is really damn good.
Yep. Now, X Factor, honestly, anyone in the offense not named Fournette, because this team can't rely on Fournette the whole time. That's what they literally did in 2017. And last year, he was injured, and you could see how much they sucked. And then, maybe for a secondary X Factor would be, maybe a safety, as they really kind of need one, but that defense is still elite.
While we're on the topic, can we talk about
yeah, sure.
Comments about Tyreek Hill?
He's just a return, man.
Jalen Ramsey has his eyes on Tyreek Hill week 1, so we'll see.
We'll see how that happens. It's going to be interesting.
Let's go to the home of whatever we want to call that Marcus Mariota-Ryan Tannehill combination.
You mean the Music City?
You mean Ryan Tannehill's team?
You mean the land of the injured quarterbacks.
Ryan Tannehill, baby. Ryan Tannehill, starting quarterback for the Tennessee Titans.
Now, Tennessee Titans, I also have them going 8-8.
You just have this division being very mediocre.
Yes, no joke. I'm going to say this now. My original hot take for this entire division, when Andrew Luck was still there, the division winner was going to be 9-7. That was not a joke. Yeah, but I haven't gone to 8. Some notable additions would be Adam Humphries, Roger Saffold, Jeffrey Simmons, Kevin Wake, Brent Urban, AJ Brown. And then some subtractions would be Luke Stockard, Josh Klein, Clinton Spain, Derek Morgan, Brian O'Rourke put to retirement, and Benny Logan. So
I think that Humphries addition is kind of overlooked, but I think that's going to be one of their bigger impacts in terms of players that they picked up.
Oh,
because he's a very underrated receiver.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to dominate that slot area. And I think that'll give them a little bit more than just a running game.
Yeah, that helps too. So, the Titans, just like the Jaguar, are probably going to also be mediocre. The difference here is that this team, unlike the Jaguars, is just the definition of inconsistency. Last year, that was basically them.
When we went into the offseason, I wanted Humphries over Crowder. They were both slot guys, so one or the other.
Yeah.
But Tennessee, depending on whoever starts at quarterback, depending on who doesn't get hurt over the next week and a half.
Mariota and Tannehill are, they're not terrible. Neither are terrible. Mariota still could be very good. Problem is, he's just always injured. Now the Titans here, offensively, they still have Mariota. They have running backs Derrick Henry and Deion Lewis as, a pass catcher specialist. They have wide receivers.
The freight train.
Yeah. They have Corey Davis, Adam Humphries, and hopefully a healthy Delaney Walker, who doesn't fracture his leg on week 1, unfortunately, would help this team to be at least solid on the offensive side. And, their O-line is good. It's not elite, but it's one of the better O-lines in the league. And defensively, it could still be good. You still have guys like Kevin Byard, who for me I'm really high on. He's probably one of the most underrated defensive players in the entire league just because he plays for the Tennessee Titans. And then you still have Jarrell Casey and Ed Rusher and Adoree Jackson. They're still going to be good. And Malcolm Butler, he can't have a much worse season than last year, right?
Malcolm Butler bad last season.
He cannot have much more of an abysmal season than last year. It can't happen. Their only main problem defensively, well, pass rush. Brian Arakpo, one of the better ones, retired, and Morgan left via free agency. So they're hoping guys like Wake Cameron and Jeffrey Simmons can be serviceable and then they could probably improve on that what they did last year. I still think they're going to go 8-8, and my X factor for this team, Marietta's health. You guys probably know this, but he's yet to play 16 games in a season.
Hence why they always have to have a decent backup.
Last year was Blaine Gabbert. It cost him a playoff spot. Literally.
That's true. All right.
And
I mean, it's pretty easy at this point. You had the Colts going 7-9. You had the Jags and Titans going 8-8. Texans have got to be over 500, right?
Yeah. No, they're 8-8. Yeah, they're 10-6.
They have such a good team even without Jadeveon Clowney.
Yeah, even Jadeveon Clowney, that team's still good. Like this team is not a clear favorite to win since Luck is retired. That offense is looking good with Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins, which literally you could just have those two and probably win 6 games alone.
Except Deshaun needs his protection.
Now, I'm getting to that. Let me get to that.
Seattle.
Yeah. Now, Lamar Miller is out for the whole season, but Duke Johnson is still can be a good running back. And what's it called? And the Texans still have deep threat Will Fuller, as long as he doesn't tear his UCL again, and Kiki Kuti, who could be a serviceable slot guy. And then defensively, now that defense is still looking really good. J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney, well, whenever he gets signed or traded, I have no idea what the hell is happening there. Justin Reed, Whitney Merciless, Bernard McKinney, and Zach Cunningham, they're all still there, and they're all still really damn good. Now, it might not be as good as the Honey Badger leaving the offseason, but it's still a good defense. And Deshaun Gibson and Bradley Roby should soften the blow that the Honey Badger lost, along with Kareem Jackson. Now, the biggest X factor, obviously, it's just their entire O-line. Their O-line just needs to be competent, in general.
Clowney not get hurt.
That too, but it's more the O-line. That O-line, if you look at plays where Deshaun Jackson gets sacked or the pocket just collapses, it's either the tackles not doing their assignments or being too slow.
The quarterback is Deshaun Jackson.
Deshaun Watson. Sorry. Let me get this straight. The guards are just revolving doors sometimes, and there's some plays at the center just botches. He might throw it the wrong way or not straight to Watson. And for me, it's just the X factor's the O line and the defensive consistency. I'm looking at you, Jadeveon. If you're still on this team somehow.
If he's actually ever going to report or get traded or just sit out. Is he going to be Le'Veon 2.0?
There was a report today that he was going to report this week.
There was.
Until the Texans decided to be oh, we're going to trade you.
I feel like he's just going to do it. He's still going to. My feeling is that he's still just going to sign the tender at this rate. That's just me.
Well, even if he gets traded, he still has to sign the tender.
Which if he's going to get traded, he's going to sign the tender.
Yeah. No,
well, he has to.
I know, but it's not like if he gets traded, it's not like he's going to trade to a terrible team.
Which is why he's not going to sign the tender if a trade is worked out with Miami.
Yeah, which I doubt because I just don't know what Miami's willing to give up for said Jadeveon Clowney, especially when you can't talk about an extension during this year.
First round pick?
Talks of Kenyon Drake.
Yeah, because Houston does need a running back now with Lamar Miller out for the year.
That's true, but I think I think they were actually trying to get Drake, but they ended up getting Duke Johnson. But I still see them getting Drake just because Lamar Miller's out for the year.
Hey, guys, if the Dolphins trade Kenyon Drake to Houston, do they go out and sign Jay Ajayi?
They could.
They could just bring him back in and trade him for
They could.
Why don't the
They
Texans
could,
sign
or
Ajayi?
they'll just give the reins to Kalen Ballage.
That is true. They can do that.
Ballage has looked very good throughout camp and for the preseason.
Yeah, he's looked solid.
So,
the Texans, why don't they just sign Ajayi?
That is very true. There's a lot of ways that Texas can go with this situation.
Also, the Jets are either cutting Powell or Eli McGuire going into cuts. So,
and there will be a number of backs from the Eagles that are going to get cut.
Like there's
Wendell
a lot of
Smallwood, Donnell Pumphrey,
there's
Josh Adams.
There's a lot of running backs that usually get cut during this time. I don't think the Texans are really in any hurry to trade Jadeveon.
all right. So, in a smooth transition, I mean, we were talking about the Dolphins. So, Andrew started off with the Dolphins.
Yeah, so the Dolphins, they lost Ryan Tannehill. Like, that's not a huge loss. Cameron Wake, that's a bigger one that they have to replace. Danny Amendola, very good slot guy, and Josh Sitton were the guys they lost. They did, however, pick up Josh Rosen for the price of a second-round pick. And the Cardinals are on the hook for most of his signing bonus, so Miami has a really cheap quarterback for the next 4 years. And they also added Eric Rowe, Dwayne Allen, and re-signed Devontae Parker. So those are some really nice pieces that they were able to keep and add. I've got them going 3-13, and that's
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Do you have them as worst team in general?
They're the worst team I have.
Oh, okay. No, like
Because
like just in
they're
your
not
opinion,
good.
like league.
Most likely, they're the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
No, they are the worst team.
Yeah.
They are the worst team in the National Football League.
In their official depth chart, they don't even have a starting right tackle listed.
Which is not very good.
They have a third-string tackle listed, but not a first-string. So,
all right. So
figure that one out, Dolphins. Why don't you have a starting right tackle?
okay.
I mean, whoever their quarterback is, the competition between Fitzpatrick and Rosen, they have weapons to work with in Mike Gesicki, Devontae Parker, Kenny Stills, and the combination of Kenyon Drake and Kalen Ballage. They've got weapons. They just aren't going to have the time. They did draft Michael Dieter this year. I think he's going to be of the rookies they have, he's going to be the one that makes the biggest impact. Just because I think he's going to make the line a bit better than it was, and at least give Fitzpatrick or Rosen a little bit of time to throw.
All right, Andrew.
And get the ball downfield.
Andrew, X Factor, Miami is?
Not screwing up Josh Rosen.
So,
despite only giving up a second-round pick.
So Josh Rosen is their X Factor.
Yeah, as long as you don't screw him up, they'll be fine.
I'm going to be honest, I thought your X Factor was going to be not screw up the tank.
Well, that's true too, but if they're able to get Josh Rosen to develop, that'll be a big plus for them, only giving up a second-round pick.
That is true. Rosen still has a lot of potential.
He's got talent too.
Dude,
yeah.
Rosen was picked 10th overall. He's got talent. He just was in the wrong situation.
And I don't know if this is a better situation.
Yeah, this isn't much better. All right, transitioning
on to the Bills.
Yeah,
I've got them finishing at 6-10, and third in the division.
Okay, so what are the Jets' record, and how much better are the Patriots going to be than the Jets?
Well, I'll get to that in a minute. The The Bills, they lost Kyle Williams to retirement and Charles Clay. So those are a couple of losses that I think they did a pretty good job of filling the holes with Ed Oliver, Cody Ford on the O-line, Devin Singletary in the backfield. They also added Cole Beasley, who's a very good... He's a solid slot guy as well. And EJ Gaines. Ed Oliver is going to make the biggest difference on that team as a rookie. He just upgrades that D-line so much. And the X factor I have for them is the development of Josh Allen. Can he stay upright? Can the offensive line keep him upright? And can he become more accurate with the football, delivering it to Beasley and the other guys he has?
All right.
On to the Jets. I have the Jets finishing at 7-9.
Oh, God.
Sounds realistic. Sounds real.
Their biggest subtraction this year was finally firing Mike McCagnon. And their biggest addition, arguably, was bringing in Joe Douglas to be the GM. Despite letting Adam Gase run everything until they hired Douglas, when we thought Adam Gase was going to screw everything up.
McCagnon signed Le'Veon.
Yeah. So he left them with a very good parting gift in the addition of Le'Veon Bell. Quinnen Williams is going to be a beast on that D-line.
But that secondary, though.
That secondary, they were able to add Brian Poole. They lost Buster Skrine.
Good. Good. Buster Skrine can get the GTFO.
The other guy they just added today in a trade.
Nate Hairston.
Yeah. I think he could be a decent addition to that secondary.
Yeah, and our assistant GM came from Indy. He knows him well.
Yeah.
All right. The X factor on the Jets is
Sam Darnold's development. Another young quarterback. He was decent last year. If he can take another step forward, you've got Le'Veon Bell, who's healthy. Jamison Crowder's another under the radar addition that I think is going to be really good. Because, as an Eagles fan, I saw him a lot with Washington. I hated him because he'd always tear us up. And he's a very good slot guy that is going to add a lot to this Jets team. And then finally, we've got the Patriots.
At what record?
I've got them finishing 13-3.
Oh my God.
They added Michael Bennett in a trade with the Eagles. He's going to be a big piece on their D-line. They added Demaryius Thomas, who needs to get healthy via free agency. They added N'Keal Harry in the draft. He could start out as their 2 until Thomas gets healthy, and he'll be a decent addition on that team. The loss of Rob Gronkowski is going to hurt a bit because I don't know if they have anybody to replace him, really. And he was a huge weapon for Brady.
That's why they should have gone after, an Austin Seferian-Jenkins or somebody.
Yeah. But they didn't, but that's kind of just the way Belichick rolls.
I mean, you kind of have N'Keal Harry to soften that a little, but it's not, not a Gronk-like.
You got N'Keal Harry and Demaryius Thomas and Josh Gordon to...
Yeah.
Move to tight end.
And you've got the running backs, Sony Michel, James White, Rex Burkhead. They're all going to play a role in the offense, most likely.
All right.
But Michael Bennett on that D, that gives them a bit more pass rush. And I've got the X factor is Tom Brady staying healthy. That O-line's got to keep him upright. He can't take too many hits, but there's no reason to think he should take any hits. He's got a solid O-line, despite David Andrews going down, most likely for the season due to a blood clot, which is awful to hear, but he's still got a solid line in front of him. It's just the center position is no longer as solid as it used to be.
All right. It's my turn. So, with the AFC West, what a division. Let's start from the bottom up. I have the Oakland Raiders at the bottom of the division, going 5-11. Their top acquisition, was it Antonio Brown? No. Was it Cleveland Farrell? No. Heck, was it Mike Glennon? Hell to the no.
What, did you put Mayock?
It's Mike Mayock.
Okay, you did.
Mayock.
Peterman.
Do you mean Peter meme?
Mike Mayock and
the Peter memes.
That is the dream team for Nathan Peterman to be the backup this year.
Imagine he somehow overthrows Derek Carr for the starting job.
So the acquisitions this offseason for them: Mayock, Antonio Brown, via trade out of the draft, Cleveland Farrell, Josh Jacobs, and Jonathan Abram. And then out of free agency, two crazy SOBs, Vontaze Burfict and Richie Incognito. Tyrell Williams, who is going to slot in very well with that team. Trent Brown, great protection for Derek Carr. LaMarcus Joyner, very underrated pickup. Then even some smaller guys, Nevin Lawson, Brandon Marshall, and then Mike Lennon, Isaiah Crowell, obviously depth. Subtractions like Kelechi Osemele, they traded to the Jets. Jordy Nelson, who retired. Jared Cook, who went to the Saints. And then like Marcus Gilchrist, Shady, Donald Penn, nothing really big there. The rookie breakout, though, I think is going to be Josh Jacobs. Jacobs is just, he's going to be really good. Obviously, he did have that little contract hold out for a little bit, but it's over. He's settled. He's probably going to be the starting running back. And then the X factor is Derek Carr, of course. Can he stay healthy? Can he be consistent? He has some new targets in Tyrell Williams and Josh Jacobs to add on to some of, and Antonio Brown, to add on to some of his targets returning from last year. So they're 5-11 at the bottom of the division. In third, the 7-9 Denver Joe Flaccos. So, biggest acquisition for them, obviously, is Joe Flacco via trade. He's their new starting quarterback in Denver. Also, Drew Lock, Dalton Reisner out of the draft. Juwan James, Kareem Jackson, Bryce Callen in free agency. Head coach Vic Fangio. And offensive line coach Mike Munchak.
Wait, did you forget Noah Fant?
The biggest draft pick of them all.
Oh, yeah. And Noah Fant.
He's going to be Flacco's favorite target because he's a tight end.
And because Jake Bunt is hurt again.
Yep, and probably for a while.
Yeah, he is. So obviously the biggest breakout, Noah Fant. Subtractions: Brandon Marshall, Matt Paradis, Shaq Barrett, Bradley Roby, Case Keenum. The X factor, though, it's gonna be Joe Flacco, right? Is Joe Flacco even year Joe Flacco or odd year Joe Flacco?
So you mean elite or scrub?
Yep, and I mean they do have a solid backup in case. Drew Lock has looked a little shaky during the preseason at points, but at some points he's also looked very good.
I chalked that up to it's just the preseason.
It is the preseason. All right. So 7-9 Denver Broncos. In second, we have the 11-5 Los Angeles Chargers. So they lost Tyrell Williams, Corey Liggett, Julia Ladai, Darius Fallon, Antonio Gates, obviously. Acquisitions. Thomas Davis and Tyrod Taylor. You want me to continue? No, legit, that's it. That is it. That is like all they did.
Did you forget Jerry Tillery for defense? Like just the pick?
That's who I have as their top rookie, Jerry Tillery. And then their X Factor is Austin Eckler. He is second on the depth chart for running backs. If
Technically one if Gordon is out.
Gordon continues
which there's been a lot of noise that Gordon will be there for week 1 and that this holdout won't continue into the season. So
unlike Clowney and Zeke. And then of course 13-3. You can't go wrong with the Kansas City Chiefs at this point. Like, subtractions: Justin Houston, D. Ford, Mitch Morse, Eric Berry, Steven Nelson, Eric Murray, Orlando Scandrick, and that running back who shall not be named that is now on the Cleveland Browns and is suspended 8 games. Acquisitions: Honey Badger, Brashad Breeland, Alex Okafor, Carlos Hyde, who may get cut. And if he does get cut, Texans, have fun. Damian Wilson, Emmanuel Ogba via trade, Frank Clark, Juan Thornhill, Darren Lee, and of course, the most important acquisition of them all, defensive coordinator and former Giants coach, Steve Spagnuolo. No, I'm kidding. Tyrann Mathieu was the biggest acquisition. But,
to be better, anything is better than a Dave Sutton secondary.
That is true, because Spagnuolo is actually decent.
Yes, and Bob Sutton can only do pass rushing.
Rick Breakout, Juan Thornhill. I think he's going to join him with opposite Tyrann Mathieu really well. And X Factor, Renz, I'm sorry, it's Darren Lee. The thing with Darren Lee is he never really lived up.
I don't blame you at all for saying Darren Lee.
Lived up to the hype with the Jets, so they dealt him off for a 6th. Obviously, the Jets now swapped the 6 to Indy. It's the lower of the two, which means it'll probably be Kansas City 6th. But end all be all, it's the Chiefs. Chiefs and Chargers will both make the playoffs, but it's the Chiefs division to run away with. Talking about divisions that people will run away with, or not, depending on how Nick perceives it. Take it away with Captain FF and the Pittsburgh Steelers, OBJ and the Cleveland Browns, and then running back / QB Lamar Jackson, and then the Bengals. Nick, floor is yours.
So for the AFC North, we're gonna start from the bottom. We're gonna start with the Bengals.
Of course.
They're gonna go 4-12. At least that's what I think. I think that Joe Mixon is too good not to steal them a few games. So the top acquisitions that I have, mainly through the draft with Jonah Williams, who's an offensive tackle, and QB Ryan Finley. There's been chatter that Ryan Finley may give Andy Dalton a run for his money. I don't know how much stock to put in that, but just something to look at. Also, they picked up Drew Sample, a tight end in the draft, which is, I mean, you think of the Bengals, they have a couple blocking tight ends, but that's about it. And then again, that's kind of what Drew Sample is. Other offseason moves, they picked up a guard in John Miller, a defensive tackle in Kerry Wynn, and then a secondary piece in B.W. Webb, and then just a couple of re-signings. Nothing really too big. They lost Vontaze Burfict. Kind of hurts, you know.
Doesn't now? Now he's playing with Antonio Brown and Hard Knocks this season.
Yeah. And then they also lost defensive end Michael Johnson. I think that the biggest rookie impact is going to be Jonah Williams on that offensive line. I think that, he was the best offensive lineman in the draft this year, and I think that he is going to give, again, whoever's at QB. Personally, I think Andy Dalton is still a lock for QB1 in Cincinnati, but just give him more time to get the ball out to maybe a healthy AJ Green, or Joe Mixon out of the backfield. But we'll see. Their X factor this year, they got a new head coach, Zach Taylor. He's only ever been the play caller one time. It was a 5-game stretch in Miami. The Dolphins only averaged 17 points per game during that stretch, so,
He sounds a lot like when Sean McVay came into the league.
He's a Sean McVay type. That is definitely something that's been said about him.
Somewhat Sean McVay. A coach comes into the league now, they have 3 things. They are young. They are offensively minded. And they have some affiliation with Sean McVay.
To be fair, I'm pretty sure to just be on top of a list, you just need to put no Sean McVay. At this rate.
Yeah. So that's the Bengals. They're going to be in the basement of the AFC North. That's really not a surprise to anybody.
Bengals.
So moving up at 6-10, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Wow.
So Pittsburgh, what did they do this offseason? Well, they drafted Devin Bush, which was big. I mean, you lose Ryan Shazier to the injury that he had. That's kind of one of the big things that the Steelers upgraded, was getting Devin Bush as a linebacker. He's going to be big for them. That's their rookie impact. I mean, I think he's going to have a massive impact on that defense this year. So we'll go back to their top acquisitions. They got Donta Moncrief, I guess.
He's a wide receiver. So.
Yeah, and they got Devin Bush. And that was, they got a couple other players. They got Mark Barron also to help in that linebacker role, and they got a corner in Steven Nelson. So their secondary is still lacking, but at least their defensive line is still pretty good, and their linebacker situation is better now. I wouldn't say that it's solved. Obviously, I mentioned the rookie that's going to have the largest impact is going to be Devin Bush. Their X factor is just, did they lose too much? You look at the players that they lost. They lost Antonio Brown, who, while he's not the Antonio Brown of 3 years ago, he's still Antonio Brown. He still gave you that option opposite of Juju Smith, where you had it was a crapshoot. Do you cover Juju? Do you cover Antonio? If you cover one, the other one could be wide open because of how fast both of them are. They lost Le'Veon Bell. Obviously, that he didn't play for them last season, and we saw that James Conner can handle the workload. It's just James Conner got injured, so can James Conner stay healthy? They lost Jesse James, which I think is going to go under the radar as one of the bigger losses of this offseason, because now you don't really have a second tight end. You have Vance McDonald, and that's it. You can't just run Vance McDonald to the ground, because while he is up there as one of the top tight end talents in the league, obviously everybody needs rest. And then they also lost LJ Fort, another linebacker. So that's their X factor, is just, did they lose too much this offseason? Does Big Ben have the weapons at his disposal to carry this team? I don't think he does.
Answer for you, Nick. No, he doesn't.
And that's why I have them at 6-10.
It also doesn't help when Ben Roethlisberger only likes to pass.
Exactly.
Like, he led the league in passing attempts.
He did.
Lot.
And so, going from the team with, the quarterback with the most passing yards and the most pass attempts, we'll go to Baltimore, where we saw the lowest pass attempts.
Because they have Lamar, the running back, Jackson as QB.
So we'll start with their top acquisitions. I was a huge Gus Edwards fan. Gus the Bus. He was good last year down the stretch. However, the Ravens did get a proven running back in Mark Ingram. He's a bull. He runs through people. And I think that on a team that likes to run, I think he's going to be a very welcome addition. And I think that Mark Ingram, Gus Edwards kind of duo is going to be huge for Baltimore. They also got Earl Thomas, which, again, another good addition to the secondary. Obviously, they lost Eric Weedle. And then they got Marquise Brown. They got Miles Boykin in the draft. 2 wide receivers who I have as their rookie impacts. Marquise Brown, great release speed. I think that's, with Lamar Jackson's improved throwing talent, I think that's going to be huge for them. And then their X factor is Lamar Jackson. Lil Vic Jackson. Is he going to run as much as last year? I don't think so. But that's the problem for defenses, is he's always a run threat. Always.
I have a philosophy. The first part of Lamar Jackson's last name, Jack, it rhymes with running back. Boom.
I guess that's something.
That is true. But I think with an improved throwing arm, I think Jackson's going to be a threat to the league. And while, Baltimore lost C.J. Mosley as a linebacker, they lost Eric Weedle, they lost John Brown, Terrell Suggs, but he's old. I don't think that the loss of, Joe Flacco and these other players is really going to hurt the Ravens. That's why I have them at 10-6. Now, moving on to the last team in the AFC North, the most interesting offseason by any team, I think.
So you have the Browns going 11-5 or better.
I have them at 10-6. I think both the Ravens and the Browns 10-6. Yes.
Okay.
So the Browns, obviously, biggest offseason, at least in my opinion. They got OBJ, which is huge. I'm going to name the running back that would not be named earlier, Kareem Hunt. While he is suspended for 8 games, you've got Kareem Hunt for the last 8 games. That's huge.
Also, you could use him as a part-time kicker. I'm sorry, that's a bad taste, but I still want to do it.
Ow. That's not cool.
They also added Sheldon Richardson on the defensive line, as well as Olivier Vernon. And they added Greedy Williams. I think that Greedy Williams is going to be huge in that secondary. They lost the linebacker in the trade to what is his name?
Emmanuel
to the Giants. No. That's gonna bother me.
For the Giants,
Jabril Peppers. I'm sorry, he's a safety, but he's a safety. But they used him more as a linebacker than a safety.
They used him as a box too.
And so I think that Greedy Williams is going to slot right into that cornerback spot, and I think that in that secondary, he's going to be a monster. That defense is coming along. It's a young defense, and I think that they're going to be good. Will they be great? No, but I think they're going to be good enough to keep this team at 10-6. I think they're going to have a winning record. Now, obviously, the X factor is going to be Freddie Kitchens. Will he be able to coach this team of great talent? But it's going to be keeping that talent under control, and I think it's going to be getting that talent to gel as an offense. That's another one of my X factors is Baker and the offense. He has a lot of weapons. Can he use them? So I have them at 10-6. I think they are going to be the most interesting team to watch this year. They very well, again, I have them at 10-6. I think they're going to go. I went over the Cleveland schedule with somebody that used to manage within the Cleveland Browns organization, and I think that they could go 10-6. I really think they can, and I think they could go to the playoffs.
So, who do you think wins that division, Baltimore or Cleveland? Because you have them at the same record.
That's where I'm undecided, right? Because obviously I've got them at the same record. I'm really not sure which team's going to edge the other out. I just don't know. That's why I think that the AFC North is going to be one of the more interesting divisions to watch, just because, and even the Steelers, while I have them at 6-10, it's Big Ben. They could very easily have a decent shot at making the playoffs.
They still have top-end talent to bail them out.
Exactly. So I think that it's going to be an interesting division to watch. Right now, I have the Ravens and the Browns atop it. Who edges the other one out? I really couldn't say, because the Browns have the more established talent, whereas the Ravens have a lot of young guys that could come in and really, really contribute, like Marquise Brown, like Miles Boykin, like Lamar Jackson. It's gonna be great.
All right. So, final thoughts before we actually get into final thoughts. I'm just going to cover the bases a little bit. First off, thoughts and prayers go out to Tampa Bay Rays minor leaguer Blake Bivens, his family, his wife's family. If you haven't heard yet, and I don't know how people haven't, Blake Bivens' wife, 1-year-old son, and his mother-in-law were all killed via homicide of his 19-year-old brother-in-law the other day. It's disgusting. People like that should not be allowed to not be near a secure place. Again, like I said on Twitter, keep them in your prayers. Give them a tremendous amount of privacy. Only makes the most sense.
And unfortunately for you, that's the one thing that went viral.
Yeah, unfortunately for me, that's my one tweet that's gone viral. But to be honest, it is true though.
It is.
Second off, congratulations to Mr. Cam Ward. Wonderful in the National Football League.
Football?
National Hockey League. He could probably be a kicker in NFL though.
To be fair, there has to be a guy named Cam Ward in the NFL that's played in that history.
Probably.
There's way too many Wards.
Hold on. It does not look like it.
Oh, come on.
Dang it.
I'm disappointed in you, NFL.
If anyone wants to talk that, I'm done something in the Discord group. Somebody else take that, because that was going to be another final thought of mine, but I'll let somebody else do that. My two big final thoughts. First up, Anthony Beauvillier signed a new contract with the New York Islanders today. 2 years, $2.1 million AAV. In my opinion, great deal. Bridge contract to what could be a huge payday if he becomes the top 6 forward, the 55-point guy that the Islanders expect him to be, 55-point guy. And then the other one, I was previewing this in the group chat earlier, and this is about the National League Cy Young Award race. I do not think Hyunjin Ryu should win the Cy Young Award.
Oh, wow, that's bold.
I think Mike Soroka should win it.
I could honestly see that.
And here's my case. First off, this man is 22. He is dominating the league. He's 10-3 with a 2.44 ERA. His FIP is 3.19, and he's rolling with a 1.09 whip.
It also helps that he pitches better on the road.
Mike Soroka has allowed 8 home runs this year. They have all been solo home runs.
It's even more impressive when you know the ball is juiced.
8 solo home runs. They have all been hit in different games. He is not, this season, he is not allowed a home run with runners on base. He is not allowed more than a home run, a start, and he's only allowed 8 in 147 and 2/3 innings pitched. It's really good.
He's been a really, really good pitcher.
His K to walk ratio, it's insane.
So, who do you have as 1, 2, and 3 in Cy Young then?
Soroka, Ryu, Strasburg.
Okay.
I still do like Ryu's chances. I mean, after his little knock up the other day, I mean, he's still leading the NL in ERA. He's still doing a couple other things, leading the league in walks per 9, ERA plus, yada, yada, yada. But we've still got time. For all we know is ERA could go back down. And then Steve Strasburg, he's just been so good this year. His 3.63 ERA is a little deceiving. His FIP is lower than his ERA, which is telling that. And if you don't know, if people don't know what FIP is, it measures a pitcher's effectiveness at preventing home runs, walks, and hit by pitchers, as well as his effectiveness of causing a strikeout. And the average FIP is the same as the average ERA. So when your FIP is lower than your ERA, that's a good thing. Which means he's good at preventing strikeouts, but also does not give up a lot of home runs. He's allowed 20 this season in 171 innings, which isn't great, but it's not awful. His walk rate, it's 43 in 171, and then 4 intentionals. Hit by pitch, he's got 9 this year, but has struck out 201 guys. And then if you continue in the NL Cy Young race, which is going to be a very interesting race, to say that much. Clayton Kershaw, 13-3 with a 2.76 ERA this year. Still really good. Walker Buehler, really good. Luis Castillo, really good this year. And even guys like Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer, Zach Greinke shouldn't be winning it because now obviously he's in the IL. And we're completely excluding like Will Smith, Kirby Yates, even like Luke Jackson will get votes because he had a fantastic season this year. Now, obviously, he's not the closer because Mark Melancon has taken that job, but still, NL Cy Young race will be interesting, and then the AL is basically a two-man race to the end. Which Astro is going to win it? The one who will be back next year in Justin Verlander or Garrett Cole, who will not. All right, Nick, final thoughts.
Yeah, so, final thoughts. I mean, it's a little scattered, but Jesse Puljujärvi signed in Finland. He's absolutely 100% never playing for the Oilers, ever. Which I'm cool with. I need some...
They want a first-round pick and a prospect who can become a top 6 forward or a player that can make an instant impact right now.
Yeah, yeah, whatever. That situation will progress as it does. Let's see. The Sox just activated David Price, so I guess that's good.
If he could pick.
They're currently playing in Colorado, and Jackie Bradley smashed a third deck 478-foot home run the other night, so that was pretty cool.
Jackie Bradley Jr.
You know, really at this point, it's just waiting for football season and hockey season. I'm excited to see, what rookies make it out of camp in the NHL. I think that it's going to be an interesting year with some of the shifts that have happened. Phil Kessel at Arizona, how that's going to play out, big stuff like that. So we'll see what ends up happening. I think that really it's just going to be an interesting year in sports. Coming up in the fall, we've got MLB playoffs, which are going to be interesting as always, and we've got football and hockey to look forward to. So
and
it's
whatever basketball is going to be this year.
Yeah, that's a sport, I guess. So yeah, that's really it.
Andrew, you can agree with me. The most important thing that's happening this fall, the race for the MLS Cup, baby.
That is true.
All right, Andrew, final thoughts?
So, I also want to give congratulations to Mike McKenna on a long, winding road for a career that ended, that he decided to call it quits this year. His final game in Lehigh Valley, that was one of what he put out on Twitter when he was announcing his retirement from the game. He wanted to fly his whole family in and a bunch of guys, and his longtime goalie coach into the game so they could see him play one last time. And he ended up making the final save in the shootout to get the win. And
way to send off.
Yeah. They were down, the Phantoms were down 2-0. They came back. At one point it looked like McKenna was trying to race up the ice to end the game himself, but he was just making a breakout pass because he was just playing carefree hockey in his last game of his career. The Phantoms honored him as the first star in that game and made it a perfect way to end his career. And he just, he's gone through so much. He's been with 15 different organizations throughout his career. And he's the all-time winningest U.S.-born goaltender in AHL history. So, just congratulations to him on his career and retirement. And also, congratulations to Claude and Rianne Giroux on the birth of their son, Gavin.
Son.
And also congratulations to Bryce Harper and his wife on the birth of their child, Crew. May they eventually become involved in this wonderful Philadelphia sports scene.
Hey, Crew could be drafted while Bryce is still playing for the Phils.
Doubtful. He could still be playing it. Bryce would have to play till he's about 45.
Yeah, he would have to play for a very long while. He could be a manager, but that's the only way.
He could.
And before you continue, Andrew, actually, congratulations, Cody Bass, on a wonderful contract to retire. Sign off, get out. And also, Rogers Media, what are you doing? I'm going to leave it there because I definitely have strong opinions on them basically saying, okay, Hockey Central at noon, gonna get 10 times worse. Doug McLean, get out. And then, even better, what do? They decide to take away one of the best personalities on Hockey Night in Canada. Nick Kypreos has been let go by Rogers Media.
They're cost cutting.
Kypreos has got to get a hook on somewhere. If it's NBC, imagine like a table of Nick Kypreos and Patrick Sharp on a round table. Like, that'd be really good.
Yeah, it would be.
Because Sharp was very good this season. All right. Andrew, continuing on with your final thoughts.
Philadelphia Union got a big win over DC United this past weekend. They play Atlanta at home on Saturday. This is a huge 6-point game. The race in the Eastern Conference for MLS will come down to the wire. You've got 3 teams within a point of each other in the top 3 spots. The race in the West is
with that comeback.
You've got LAFC, and then you've got the next 7 teams within, I think, 9 points of each other.
Yeah.
So that's a very tight race going down to the finish, and it'll be interesting to see who comes out on top.
It's LAFC and then Real Salt Lake to Sporting Kansas City, who is 2-9, are 9 points for me.
Yeah.
And then, even better, Houston, 12 points back. The only teams really out of it are Colorado and Vancouver in the West, and then FC Cincinnati in the East. Because 11 seed Columbus Crew, 7 points back of 7 seed Toronto FC.
Yeah. So it's a very tight race to the finish line in MLS. And finally,
since he's going to have the second overall pick this year, because obviously Nashville is going to have first.
Yeah. And finally, I want to bring up the point, Carly Lloyd as an NFL kicker.
Please.
I would love to see this. Someone needs to make it happen.
The Bears.
Yeah.
To be fair, half the teams in this league could need a kicker.
And that's all I've got.
All right. Rens, you probably have something fun.
I don't know. I'll probably think of this just like Nick.
Group chat.
Yeah. Okay. So Andrei Markov just hired Alan Walsh. And it doesn't help that the only team he wants to return to is Montreal. You know what doesn't help? He's 40.
And
so
you want to... Hey, let's play a game. Guess how much salary cap Montreal has?
Yeah.
$4 million. And you have to pay Max Domi next year.
Yeah, that's not happening. It just isn't. And really, just like Nick, I'm just waiting for football and hockey season. Football starts in a week. Please come quicker. And training camp, I'm really interested in what's going to happen just for some reason of RFAs. Can we just hear some news and not speculation? I'm really getting way too tired.
Anthony Beauvillier signed today.
Congrats.
Hey, that's off the market now.
Congrats. That's 129th.
Or could we just put in an earlier RFA deadline? September or October? Rather than
October
December?
1st. October 1st, I would love that. Not September 1st, that's a bit aggressive. I'd do October 1st because that's before the regular season.
I'm not saying necessarily September 1st, but maybe mid-September, like September 18th.
Definitely earlier than December 1st because that was just...
Because then everything just drags out.
Yeah, just like Nylander.
We're going to have somebody not play this year.
Oh, yeah. There's going to be somebody at this rate.
Who do you
think?
But I think all the RFAs want to play.
Oh, they do. They just want money.
No, it's not the players, it's the agents.
That's true.
If the players had the option, they would be signed already.
I have two players that I think aren't going to play this year.
Is Patrick Laine one of them?
Patrick Laine and Brandon Carlo.
Really, Carlo? My money would honestly be on Marner.
No, I think what's going to happen is the Leafs are going to beg up. They're going to have to trade either Andreas Janssen or Zach Hyman. They're going to have to attach a prospect on because it's going to be a sweetener because the Leafs are going to get desperate. And
I don't think they'll trade Hyman just because he tore his ACL.
All right, then trade CC. Trade CC, attach like a Bracco to get CC's contract out, send him to a team that not only needs a defenseman but has salary cap.
Ottawa?
No.
No. Even that would be really funny.
It's Nick Zaitsev. No, but like maybe like the Kings could use one. Calgary, if they want to still try and trade TJ Brady, but they need to pay out because you can't risk getting rid of Mitch Marner for the year. Oh my God, the Indianapolis Colts brought in somebody for a visit yesterday.
Brock Goswin.
Oh yeah.
Yep, I just read that up and really, Osweiler. Come on, there has to be some other washed-up backup QB I'd rather try.
All right. So that is this week's preview. Next week, NFC, where we will have a lot more fun because this week none of us did our favorite division because Renz and I are Jets fans and Nick's a Patriots fan. Andrew doesn't get to do the NFC East next week.
That is my division.
That is Renz's. All right. We will see you on episode 22, also known as 22 days until hopefully another RFA signs.